Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deb Kidwell, and I work with MEC's technology community. Today, on behalf of Jenny Parks, I would like to welcome everyone to MEC's webinar on Creative Commons professional learning opportunities for our regional consortia members. Jenny is our Vice President for Policy and Research and unfortunately was not able to join us today. But during the session, you may also hear from Annika Meni, who is the OER consultant for MEC. As we get started, I wanted to mention that the Midwestern Higher Education Compact was legislative creative and serves the Midwest Census region. That includes 12 states. We're governed by 60 commissioners plus our commissioner alternates. We are one of 4 regional higher education compacts. We have MEC, we have the New England Board of Higher Education. We also have the Southern Regional Education Board and the Western Institute Commission for Higher Education, Interstate Commission. Historically, MEC is known for its cost savings initiatives. So we are here today to talk about one of MEC's contracts, the contract with Creative Commons, and I wanted to talk a moment just about the eligibility to use the contracts. Higher education institutions, public and private not-for-profit, within the member states of the compacts are eligible to use our contracts. Our technology contracts are also available for use by member state K-12 districts and schools, cities, counties, local subdivisions, state governments, and nonprofit organizations, so long as they are education-related organizations. We also have agreements in place with our sister compacts to allow the same entities in those regions to utilize these contracts. So what areas does MEC focus its contract work in? Historically, we focused on cyber insurance, property insurance, health insurance, technologies, and we're now starting to move into academic contracts. This is a little bit of an outgrowth of our technologies work as we recognize the synergy between technology and academics. So what is the process that we use for this work? Our contract awards are made using processes that are consistent with the procurement rules of each of the member states of our compact. For the Creative Commons agreement, MEC used a single feasible source, or what may more commonly be called sole source, process to allow the contract to be awarded after a public posting period. So about the contract, you can see the link on the screen, and you'll be able to go back to that later. That is where you will find the information about the contract. The contract number is MHEC-06152021-CC. The contract offers a 15% discount for existing and custom Creative Commons licensing professional learning opportunities to staff and institutional members of MEC and its sister compacts. To use the contract, simply ensure that your order references the contract number. So you might be interested in this contract if you are faculty, instructors, or graduate students, if you're a librarian or library staff, if you're an instructional designer or a technologist, if you're a director or you have staff on the call today that are from Centers for Teaching and Learning, or academic leadership, this contract opportunity might be interesting to you. So if you have any questions about the contract, you can simply go to mec.org/contracts. You can contact Jenny Parks, and her contact information is on the screen. Or if you want to contact me, you may do that as well. And before we jump and turn this over to Cable, I realized that on the front screen, I did skip over a little bit of the details. So I do want to remind you that we will add resources on the MEC website after the event. During today's event, we do encourage you to submit your questions using the Q&A box as opposed to the chat. So we will be monitoring both, but it is certainly much more easily done for us if we can see the questions in the chat and the Q&A box itself. And after the event, you will receive a link to a survey as well, and we would appreciate your feedback on today's presentation. With that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and turn the presentation over to Cable.
Great, thanks, Deb. Let me share my screen. We'll get some slides up here. Okay, can you see those okay? I see nodding heads, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Cable Green. I'm the Director of Open Education at Creative Commons. It's a real pleasure to be here today. As Deb said, we have created a contract with MEC to provide discounts to all of the regional consortium members across the United States, and want to take this opportunity to go through some of the detail. As you've got questions, please put them in the Q&A, and if you have questions after the webinar or want to dive deep into some of this, happy to discuss it further. All these slides are under a Creative Commons attribution license, and we'll make them all available to you after the event. I work at Creative Commons. You've probably heard of CC. We are the international organization. We're a nonprofit, and we create the open licenses and public domain tools that the world uses to share stuff, including educational resources. We are 20 years old this year. We operate worldwide. Our licenses are legal in every country around the world and consistent and supportive of copyright laws. And we have formal country chapters, including in the United States, in 48 countries around the world. This is our vision. We work toward a world where knowledge and culture are equitably shared in ways that serve the public interest. And so I lead our education efforts and some of our open science work. And we are really focused on what can we do for society where open is going to serve the public better than closed opportunities do. You're probably most familiar with Creative Commons from our licenses and public domain tools. You've seen these around the web. There's over 2 billion of them floating around on various educational resources and scientific literature and Smithsonian artifacts, and they're everywhere. And so we're not going to talk a lot about these today, other than to say this continues to be a growing movement to openly license and/or put works into the public domain, and which really leads us to today's discussion. A lot of you are interested in and are actively working in open education. And as you probably know, when you're finding open educational resources or OER, they tend to either be in the public domain or they've got a Creative Commons license on them. And so we proudly say we put the open in OER. And so I would say right about 8 years ago, we realized that there just weren't enough people out there. Certainly there weren't enough people at Creative Commons where I work that were able to give really high quality advice, professional development learning opportunities to others in their institutions, in their schools, their colleges, universities, in governments, in galleries, libraries, archives. We were just lacking expertise to give accurate information about how open licensing worked. And that was a problem. We decided then that we were going to create new learning opportunities and invest in people. The idea was to invest in the community, the global community of people working on open access research, open education, people working in open science, in open GLAM, so that there would be, if you will, in-house experts or in-state experts or in-institution experts who were really knew what they were talking about when it came to open licensing and public domain, so that when sharing happened, when policies were being written, when we were marking works with CC licenses, that it was done correctly, and that we were taking care to give credit to others, to honor other people's contributions to the commons. And so what we did is we've over time created workshops. We created the CC certificates, which I'll talk about in a minute. We created special consultations and consulting work for institutions and organizations to help them develop the open licensing expertise and a deeper understanding of kind of best or recommended practices around sharing. One of the programs, we'll talk about several here that qualify for the discount that we worked on with MEC. One of them is called the CC Certificates program. So the CC certificate, and by the way, I can see a couple of our CC certificate facilitators are actually in the room today, so welcome. The CC certificate is available in multiple formats. The first and most common format is a 10-week online course. And the courses, I should say, are designed around CC licenses and open practices in the ethos of sharing in a digital commons. These courses include all the things that traditional courses include: reading, quizzes, discussions, practical experiences, etc. But the goal is to develop learners' open skills. And so these are performance-based assessments and courses. As the students are learning, they're actually doing, they're building materials, they're adding CC licenses, they're learning how to attribute others, they're learning how to create remixes. So all the things that we want them to learn, they're actually building those things in a performance-based way as they're learning them. A couple points. These are not kind of self-paced, computer-driven courses. These are highly personalized. We have instructors or facilitators with every course. We have a one facilitator to 25 student ratio to keep the courses small so that everybody gets the attention and support and help that they need. We bring in addition to the course, we have kind of special webinars that we run where we bring in copyright lawyers to answer nuanced questions. And I just gave one of these webinars talking about the UNESCO recommendation on OER and talking about what's happening at a global scale. So it's a very vibrant, high touch learning space and experience that the participants in the class really, really love. We offer 3 different CC certificates. The 2 that this audience is likely most interested in is the certificate for educators and the certificate for librarians. We also have a certificate for GLAM, which is focused on the cultural sector for galleries, libraries, archives, and museums that are dealing with works of art and other cultural artifacts. So that one's probably less useful for this audience, but nevertheless, it is another certificate that we offer. The certificates are very similar in their content up until kind of the final robust unit, which deviates in all the certificates. So a lot of times people ask us, well, what's different between the educator's certificate and the librarians? And the answer there is that the educator's certificate focuses a lot on open pedagogy or open practices that can take place in the design of the learning experience with students. Whereas the librarians unit deviates and focuses on open access research and scholarly research. And so that's where those 2 certificates diverge. We have typically librarians take the librarian certificate, and our instructional designers, faculty, teachers, people that design courses tend to take the educator's certificate. There's a lot of cross-course discussions. We run multiple certificate courses at the same time. And we've got some general Slack channels where all the certificate participants can interact with each other. So we're really striving for building community across certificate students as the courses are going on. I mentioned that these are performance-based courses. We issue digital credentials. So you get CC certified at the end of the program when you graduate. And it is rigorous. You have to graduate with 90 out of the 100 points. Now, there are opportunities to, if you missed a few points, there's opportunities to resubmit assignments to the instructors, and our facilitators are really great at reaching out and helping people get across that line. We want to make sure that everybody graduates who wants to graduate and is willing to put in the work. And so there's a lot of support and effort to do that. The schedule for the certificates, they typically start in January, June, and September every year. So we run them on a trimester. That being said, we have worked with states and consortia before when they want to run a special cohort of students. So if your institution or your state or your region wants to run, a 3 or 4 classes and you want to start them at a particular timeline, we're happy to work with you on that. The next scheduled course starts in September, on September 27. We'll end in December, and then we'll start another round of courses again in January. These are just a couple people that put up posts who just graduated with their CC certificates. And so, like I said, we issue these digital credentials when people graduate. And we've seen people not only really excited about their credentials, but they actually are using them. So they are using them to get promotions in their jobs. They're using them to get their next job. You'll see these in people's signatures that, I'm CC certified, and they'll put the logo. We're seeing this in when people are applying for jobs, they're adding it to their CV or to their resume. And so it's really exciting. People are proud when they get their CC certificate. They've put a lot of work into it, and they've created a lot of artifacts that are OER that they can use in their work. That's another aspect to the certificate is we strongly recommend to the participants or the students in the certificate that they're not just building throwaway assignments that nobody's going to use. We recommend that they actually build things that they need for their job or that their institution might need. So there's a lot of flexibility in what they build as we teach the core concepts throughout the certificate. We do a lot of surveying of the certificate graduates to find out what happened after they left. Was this useful? And it turns out it's very useful. So just over 71% of our alumni say that they're using the knowledge they gained in the certificate at least weekly. 86% say they're using their knowledge at least quarterly. 62% are consulted by colleagues as an open licensing expert. So our graduates tell us, gee, I got CC certified, I let people know, and now I've got my fellow faculty from down the hall or from the next door department are coming to see me to learn about open education, to learn about open licensing, to ask me questions. And what that's producing is opportunities to maybe adopt an open textbook, or an opportunity for the person who's doing the asking to say, oh, well, maybe I should openly license my curriculum as well. So we're seeing a lot of downstream positive things happening as people interact with these CC certificate graduates. And then almost 90% of people who enroll in the certificates graduate. So as I mentioned, we work really hard to help people graduate. And we're just at about 90% right now. We're just crossing the 1,000-person threshold of how many people have taken the certificate. And we're up to, I think, 56, 57 countries now around the world where we've got CC certificate graduates. I saw Jonathan's actually in the room. Hey, Jonathan. And Jonathan does not only amazing work as one of our facilitators, but also helps us with some of the statistics and the survey work around the certificate. So I think what's important to call out here is one of the survey questions we ask is, compared to what you knew before the course began, how much have you learned? And it's 96.5% of people say I learned either a moderate or a tremendous amount. And, a very small slice, the remaining said I learned very little. So people are learning a lot. On the right here, you can see that these are the differences between pre and post tests. And if you go to Jonathan's website, you'll see breakdowns of all this, even down to the units of the curriculum. And you can see that there's a significant change between what students know before the class and what they know after the class. So we monitor all this very closely. As Deb said, we're very excited to offer a 15% discount on not just the certificate prices, but all of our professional learning experiences to all of the regional consortia in the United States and to all of their member institutions. And there are a couple links here. One was already shared, but I'll share these out after I bring my slides down, where you can find the contract and more information. All of the prices that I'm going to have here on these different options include that 15% discount. So option one is to take the CC certificate courses online. As was mentioned, this is a 10-week online course. The discounted price is $425 for this 10-week facilitated experience, which has a credential at the end of it. So we try to keep it really affordable. This is, as I mentioned, we're a nonprofit. This is just to cover the costs of what we pay our facilitators and to cover the cost of our back-end facilitation, the technology, et cetera. The registration is open for September 21. We'll open up January soon, and very likely the rest of 2022. There are a couple ways to sign up. Obviously, individuals can just self-register and sign up for a certificate course anytime they want to. And as was mentioned on the MET contract, there's a discount code that you put in the CC registration and you get the 15% automatically applied. That works really well. Another thing that many states and consortia have done with Creative Commons is to come to us and they said, we don't want to make it difficult for our faculty or our librarians to sign up for the certificate, because right now they have to individually do it and then they have to submit a reimbursement form. It's just a lot of friction and overhead to get them signed up. And so what we, the state of Connecticut, would rather do is to issue a single invoice to Creative Commons. We want to buy a couple hundred CC certificate seats and then just make a bulk purchase. And then we, the state, will hand out, or we, the institution, will hand out those seats to the CC certificate to our librarians, to our faculty. And that's perfectly okay. What we find is when that happens, we're seeing, obviously more people come in. It makes it easy, really easy for the participants to join. The one thing that we do highly recommend, if there's a single invoice or a bulk purchase, is that, and we do this at no cost, is that Creative Commons gives kind of a pre-course webinar for all the participants to let them know what they're getting into. This is it's a 10-week course. It's rigorous. We want you to be successful, and here's how you can be successful. We find that when we do that, the graduation rate goes way up, and that's something we've learned over time. And so with this contract, because it's a no bid or a sole source contract, it makes it very easy for you, an institution, or you, a consortia, to purchase certificate seats from us in that way. Option 2 is also a CC certificate. This yields a graduate, CC certificate graduate at the end. We call these boot camps. So instead of 10 weeks, we compress the time to 1 week. And so these are very intensive. These are like breakfast to dinner workshops. They cover all of the CC certificate content. The boot camps are developed for the host institution. So if Arizona State University wants to set up a boot camp, we work directly with Arizona State, and the institution obviously selects their participants. And they we changed the pedagogy a bit with the boot camp, so there's a lot more collaboration that's going on because we've got everybody from the same institution. And so there's an opportunity to have conversations like, hey, the chemistry department is going to create a zero textbook cost degree. Let's pair them with the instructional design team and with the research librarians who are going to be assisting them. And maybe that turns out to be a major project that they work on together as they're working through the certificate content. And so we try to create those kinds of collaborations so that the work products at the end of the boot camp are really what the institution, what the participants need to develop. There's 2 options for the boot camps. There's in-person boot camps. Obviously, we're not doing this right now because of the global pandemic. We hope to get back to in-person boot camps at a point. The cost for running those with 15 people is just over $18,000. That includes the travel costs of getting our facilitators to your institution and hosting them for the week, et cetera, plus just the costs of running the boot camp. We also are, because we can't do face-to-face at the moment, we're offering online boot camps, same structure. 1 week. We've also are offering a 2-week intensive workshop. We had an institution that wanted to do that for up to 50 participants. And then that cost is at $13,600. That's the discounted rate for this contract. What's important to know about the boot camps is that the participants must read all of the certificate course content in advance of the 1-week boot camp. And the reason for that is there's a good chunk of content. We need to make sure people are ready and ready to learn and engage in the activities when they show up. Whereas the 10-week online course, you work through the curriculum over the 10 weeks. The third option is kind of anything else that you want to do with Creative Commons in terms of professional learning opportunities. This tends to take the form of custom workshops and or kind of custom consulting that we set up. So a consulting example is we oftentimes get brought into universities or states to help them set up maybe a new campaign around open education or new open licensing policies on funding for open education or for open access. Sometimes we get brought in to look at the existing program and assess it and then help them make improvements on that. Sometimes we get into work with leadership, including legislative leadership, to free up additional funding. to support open education. So consulting can take all kinds of forms depending on what you need. Workshops are more of professional learning opportunities where an institution would come to us and say, well, we don't really need an entire certificate, but what we want is a half-day workshop, or we want a 2 or 3 day workshop. So the costs here really depend on the scope of work and the length of work. But we do have some standards around that, and then we simply apply the 15% discount that applies to the other bootcamp and online certificates as well. If you are interested in any of this, and this is all on the MEC contract as well, but you can email to certificates@creativecommons.org. And I'd also ask that you copy Jenrin Wetzler and me. Our addresses are here, Jenrin@creativecommons.org and Cable@creativecommons.org. We are the two people who facilitate and make all this stuff happen. And so we're happy to work with you. And if you'd like to leverage this contract, we are eager to have those conversations. At this point, let me stop sharing my slides and we'll go ahead and move to Q&A.
Super. So if folks have questions, please go ahead and put those into the Q&A. Cable will be happy to answer those. No questions yet, Cable.
And we'll keep an eye on the chat as well.
Stephen is asking if there's an online syllabus. I think that's for the certificate course.
Yes, that's a good opportunity for me to share some links here. So here is, let me just share a few links. I'll share these in the chat of Zoom. So here is the link to the CC certificates. That's kind of the master link there to everything. Here is a link to course registrations. So if you want to jump straight to registrations, there's the information there. And then to answer your question about, whoops, let me bring that back up here. So being Creative Commons, you might imagine that all of our certificate content is also openly licensed. And so not only will we show you the syllabus, but we'll show you the entire curriculum. And so there's that last link that I shared there is access to all of the CC certificate content. And you can actually go in and see the course curriculum.
Stephen was just noting he's specifically interested in the librarian option. Is that articulated there, Cable?
Yes. So Stephen, when you go into that CC BY link that I just shared, you can go in and see all of the content. While people are thinking of questions, let me share a couple other links as well. So here are the two links about or where the MEC contract information is. I think Annika already shared that one. And then here's a link directly to a PDF, which has got some additional information on MEC's website. It's got links straight to the contract and the details and the discount code and all the information that you'll need.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any other questions, but I was curious, do you have some examples of different states or institutions that have described to you sort of how they're using the certificate course or other professional development to move their open educational resources initiatives forward? And maybe could you share a couple examples?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've worked with, I'm probably going to miss a few, but we've worked with Montreal, multiple institutions in Montreal and Canada, Connecticut, Georgia, Colorado, where these examples are, they came to us and said, we want to bulk purchase, single invoice a bunch of seats and then distribute those out. Their strategy around that was they all had big open education initiatives running, and their goal was to have multiple people in the initiative that were participating be CC certified, so that they had some in-house open licensing experts who could really be the go-to people for the nuanced, detailed stuff about, how do I do open licensing correctly and accurately and legally. And so that's one example. We've also had examples where CC certificates or other CC training has been paired with policy opportunities. And so you all probably saw recently in California, the governor proposed and the legislature approved $115 million of funding for the California community colleges to build what are called Z degrees, or zero textbook cost degrees. And one of the conversations we're having there now is pairing CC certificate graduates with those opportunities. And this is not the first time we've done this. It's quite common where money is given out and something is being built. You're moving a course from closed to open, or you're building a new degree program, or you're building something significant that's openly licensed. And oftentimes Creative Commons gets contacted and said, could Creative Commons please come in and train 10, 15 people so that we've got the expertise we need to do this properly. More and more funders, including the U.S. federal government, state governments, and many foundations are now requiring Creative Commons licensing on the outputs of grants that come either from the foundation funding or from public money. The idea there is we'll give you money to do your grant project, but one of the requirements is you need to openly license it and share it with everybody else. And what that does for the funder, be it a government or a foundation, is it increases the return on investment, increases the impact of the number of people that can access those resources. And so it's quite common that Creative Commons will be asked to train, multiple people at the grantee site to make sure that they've got the skills that they need. One example of that is years ago, the U.S. Department of Labor put out $2 billion to U.S. community colleges to build entire degree programs, and Creative Commons was brought in to provide professional learning experiences for those folks and to help them with attributing their own work and attributing others' work, and making sure that all the legal nuances of this and getting terms of service right was all done correctly. We also, another example, Colorado a few years ago said, hey, we know we want to get into open education, but we don't really know all the steps. Like, what should we do first, second, third? And so Creative Commons was brought in, and step one was awareness raising. And so they did a big 2-day statewide conference and invited everybody in. And then Colorado's just been amazing. Jonathan's here. He knows more about it than I do. But they've since have gotten multiple rounds of funding from the governor and the legislature in Colorado. They have a leadership circle where it's like a committee of people from around the state that meet and provide advice. They're working with other states, and they've also come to Creative Commons and purchased bulk seats in the certificate. So they've got a lot of CC graduates across the state, so that as they continue to invest in open education opportunities, they've got experts and not just CC graduates, but also facilitators. Which reminds me, one thing I forgot to mention, our facilitators are not just people that we're picking up off the street to teach these classes. Our facilitators are CC certificate graduates themselves. And then after they graduate, they have to go through a whole round of additional training to be a facilitator, and they apprentice as a facilitator in a course, and they help to teach the course with one of our master facilitators present. And so by the time we actually have these new folks teach courses, they're really quite good. I shouldn't say quite good, they're excellent. And we're constantly meeting with the facilitators, getting their feedback on how the courses and the pedagogy can be improved. And so one of the things you'll note in the CC certificate, and you'll see this on our website, the content is always changing and being updated. We keep it evergreen, and then we also share that out.
Great, thank you so much. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions. So I think, Cable, I don't know if you had any closing words for us, but I think we can probably wrap up.
Excellent. I guess my closing remarks would be, if you're interested in open education, this is it's a good investment to make. It's very cost effective. The price, as I mentioned, is $425 to have somebody join the class and get CC certified. Please reach out to us. We're happy to help you not only think through which option is going to work best for your institution, but oftentimes you may think it's a good idea, but you've got to sell it to your dean or to your provost or president or somebody to get the funding to do it. And we're more than happy to join those meetings, present at a meeting and talk about why this is a good investment. So if that's useful, please do let us know. We're happy to do all that at no cost to you. And we're also happy to do webinars like this for your institution, for your regional consortia, for your state, and all at no cost. So if you'd like to have some custom webinars put together to spread the word, please just reach out to either Jenrin or me, and we'll make that happen. Thanks, Annika.
Thank you so much, Cable, and we appreciate the collaboration and the partnership on behalf of all of our faculty and librarians and staff and students that will hopefully benefit from this great opportunity. So thank you again.